Welcome to the Ashland Logging Museum in Ashland, Maine. This is May 10, 2016, and today, by special invitation from Edward Chase, we will get a private tour of the museum. Now, could you tell me your name, please?
My name is Edward Chase, C-H-A-S-E. I'm not one of the two S.
The chassis.
Yeah, I'm a Chase.
Chassis from the valley.
Yeah.
Now, Ed, now you were involved. I mean, we're here at the Ashland Lumbering Museum, but
Yeah.
you were also in your previous life, before retirement, you were in the woods industry.
Yes, I was a super duper for the Great Northern Paper Company in this area. From here to Fort Kent, and from here almost to Patten, and well, we did a little bit over towards Presque Isle, but generally speaking, the 90 miles in the woods up here.
Now, as superintendent, Super,
yeah.
Super.
Yeah, they call me Super
They
Duper.
called you Super Duper. Now, what kind of work did you do, as far as for the company itself, for Great Northern?
What kind? Well, we had 4 camps spread over the area, and when I first started, we were landing wood in Mooselook Lake and driving the Aroostook River to take it out of the water and put it on the railroad cars down to Sheridan, which is not too far away from where we are. And then the law about river drives changed, and we went to trucking.
Now, what year did they basically stop log driving?
68.
68.
Yeah.
That became a state law.
That's right. Actually, it was 70 when you had to be out of the river, but we started because in some places we landed wood in lakes, and sometimes it would stay there a whole year. We didn't do that on purpose, but sometimes it happened, you know.
Now, Great Northern Paper, what kind of wood did you cut? Was it saw logs? Was it
softwood in 4-foot lengths?
It was softwood in 4-foot lengths.
Yeah.
That's spruce softwood. I'm assuming this is spruce and fir.
Spruce and fir, yes.
And then what did they do with the once the wood had been cut?
We shipped it out of here on railroad cars as 4-foot wood, and it went to the mill in Millinocket and East Millinocket, and they chipped it up and made paper out of it.
So
and they also ground it up and made paper out of it.
So really, all the wood, it was really not for lumber. It was more for
absolutely. We did not.
Paper.
That's right. We went to paper mill, 2 paper mills. Yep.
So what years did you work for the Great Northern? When did you start?
I started in May 2nd, 1951, and I retired on May 2nd, 33 years later. And then I went to work for me. And I grew Christmas trees, darn good ones, as a matter of fact, almost within sight of where we are right now. Did that work for me, and I was a terrible boss. Worked for me for, we started planting trees prior to my retirement, and on the 6th year, after we planted trees, it became obvious they were big enough, and it was time for them to begin to start to go to market. So that's why I got done on the 2nd day of May, and then grew Christmas trees.
Grew Christmas trees.
Yeah.
And now you've retired.
Well, yeah.
Is there such a thing as retirement?
No, I'm not happy. I have ski trails now. Cross-country
ski trails.
Yeah.
Are they your own, or are they maintained for the town, or?
Oh no, it's me.
It's you yourself.
Yeah, somebody not enough to do this, It's me. Yeah.
But it seems like we're here at the Allagash Lumbering, the Ashland Lumbering Museum, and you're the curator of this?
No, I'm not. The curator is in that office right across the street over there.
But you're involved in it?
Yeah, have been since 1961, and we paid $1 to George Sawyer, who's buried in that cemetery right off in that direction. We paid $1 to him for this site right here, and this is where we started. And this little log cover is our first attempt at doing something here. Then we built that building. Next winter we built that. We had the lumberjack round up and needed some money, obviously, and we built those 2 buildings there. This was prevent forest fires over there. That building was a blacksmith shop at one of Great Northern's camps at Chase Brook, and the building behind that is where lawnmowers and paint cans and the inevitable stuff you need to keep things going. 1961 we built the Maine Museum. And we were going.
Now, where did you get the artifacts that are here at the Lumberman's Museum? What date range, do they span? Do they go back to the beginning of logging, which have been?
Oh, they do.
They do.
Yeah, they do. Yes. Obviously, they were many of them were had been stored in barns or whatever, and when neighbors began to kind of realize that, geez, that old relic that I've got out in the barn, they'd like to have that. Yes, okay.
Instead of throwing it away as scrap.
Absolutely.
And now you've collected that and.
Yeah.
Well, good, because what we're going to do is we'll start our tour here. It looks like we're going to start with this. Looks like a log.
That's right. And we'll move closer to it if you can.
Now, Ed, this is a huge log that's right here on display. Perhaps you can tell us about this log.
Well, this is a pine that was big enough by the King's specifications. Now, we're before the American Revolution, okay? The King's specifications were pine for mass, 108 feet or more tall.
108 feet
that's
tall,
a tall
minimum.
Yep, that's a tall pine, 10-inch top.
10-inch tall. Wow.
Yeah, okay, so that gets you way up there. And straight, obviously, and sound. And the King's agent didn't really care whose land it was on. Okay, hence there were pine that were marked that could belong to you, could belong to me, with no compensation, could be marked with the King's arrow, which is this blaze right here. This, by the way, is where they hit it with an axe.
So they would mark it as the King's tree by hitting an axe into it.
No. This is to sound the tree to see whether it is, in fact, not rotten in the center, because that would immediately make it a cow mast. They wouldn't bother to haul that to England. It was
Now, when you talk about king, I'm assuming there were no.
King of England.
It was the King of England.
Yep. Yep.
And so they would take the logs from here, select the logs,
Full tree.
the whole tree,
Yeah, the whole tree.
and they would ship it to England.
Yes, that's true.
And then they would just take those the pine and make masts for sailing ships.
That's correct.
I mean, those trees must have been worth a lot of money for, at the time.
Well,
to go-
yeah, but see, the king, and I want to go over that again. That tree may have been on your land,
Yes.
but that belonged to the king. Well, if you had a few of those that got marked for masts, and they were just going to come and cut them and haul them away, no compensation to you, hence one of the causes of the American Revolution. This particular tree came from here in the county, which was before it was a county, obviously, 17, probably was found in 1750, thereabouts, in behind where Bridgewater is today.
This particular tree.
Yes.
From the Bridgewater area.
Yes. Well, you see, this is here across the main line
Right.
now, but that didn't make any difference to the king's agent. No, what's the difference? So it was found standing. I saw it standing, and there is no doubt in my mind that this was a mast tree. But the American Revolution took place, and a whole lot of other things they never got there to cut it. So we found it. Our mentor here, George Sawyer, found it. And got some pictures in there of the crew from Ashland who went down and cut the tree. Unfortunately, it didn't break all to pieces when it fell, and
Trees of that size, when they fell
yes.
and hit the ground, that was an awful lot of weight, and I'm assuming some of these trees broke off.
Well, very often they cut a bed for it to fall into.
Okay, they cut a bed and then they fell.
And hell, that was your wood. They didn't give a damn about that. They cut down. Excuse my language, but they didn't give a darn. They'd cut it down and make a bed for that to land in, and away it would go. The whole science of those ships with the bow that lifted out of the way so they could put the whole length of the tree, that's another subject that's very interesting.
It must be.
Yeah.
It took an awful big ship if the tree itself had to be 100 feet. Solid.
Yeah, 108 actually.
108 feet.
But they could be longer than that. That's minimum, 108, 10-inch top.
Now this tree is how big in diameter?
Well,
roughly?
I've forgotten. 31 inches. The term I have to use, DBH.
Yep.
Okay.
31 inches.
Yeah, this right here, as it stood. This tree is not sound now, but it was when it was marked sometime after 1700. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We'll move out to the next next part of the museum.
Okay.
Now, at this log is right next to it, not next to the real big pine. Is this a pine as well?
No. This is a tamarack.
This a tamarack.
Yeah. This knee was used in ship construction there, and it was found on the south branch of the Machias River. As you can see, it's got a long curve
Yes.
used in the structure, making hulls of a ship.
So this was really the bottom part of the tree, where the
Yes,
root
right.
kind of
Yeah,
goes
that's right.
into the ground.
That's right. And this is what tamarack, this is the species of this tree. This is what tamarack does. It usually doesn't go down in the ground very far, and then it spreads out. Consequently, the long curve.
Oh, really? So the tamaracks, there's something I didn't know at all. The tamaracks are kind of shallow rooted.
Yes, sir.
They make big roots that just go out over a big
Yes,
area.
right. And they usually grow on a very quite a wet site.
Yes.
Water, okay, yeah, that's right. And they have a tendency to go out. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now the logs next to those, because you've got some square wood here.
These are hand hewed.
Hand hewed logs.
Yeah, you see how that's 8 inches. These are hand hewed, as you can see by the axe marks on them. Quite straight. Pretty good log.
Is this a tamarack as well?
No, I think this is spruce.
Spruce.
And I'm sure the other one is spruce.
This is all hewed with an axe.
Yeah, we'll, in the logging museum, we'll have there are some hewing axes in there, or heads for hewing axes. This was a private deal. A worker in the woods, on Sunday, he probably would look for some tamarack and cut the knees and land them on the shore of the river, and he'd be paid by the boss cash money for the tamarack knee, and it would go in with the drive and to go to the sawmill and, and get taken out somewhere downriver where they were building boats. But the worker in the woods, of course, didn't really make a whole lot. And
Right.
but anyway, that would be cash money for him right there, right in the woods.
So while he was working, you might have been cutting 4-foot pulp during the week. But if he found a real nice tamarack tree, he would kind of set it aside, and on weekends go and cut the tree.
And it would be pretty secret too, I
It would be
expect.
pretty secret. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's tamarack. There are a few tamarack in the tree line up there.
Now tamaracks, I believe, are one of the only softwoods that lose their needles completely each year.
Yes, a forester would say it's a deciduous. Okay?
Yeah.
Right. Yes, it does.
It does.
Yes, it does. And colors in the fall are beautiful.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Yes, they
They
are.
turn a nice yellow.
Yes, they do.
You see that after all the leaves have fallen,
Yes.
the tamaracks are out there standing with their
Yeah.
just yellow color. Actually, it's probably the only yellow color that we have in the month of November.
Yes, it is. Someone said, "Well, why don't you make Christmas trees out of those?" And I dodged it by saying, "I think you like your Christmas trees to have needles on it."
Yeah, 'cause by Christmas you'd have no need.
Yeah.
This is it's a tool.
Yep.
The name of the tool is, it's a mystery.
It's a mystery tool. No?
No, it isn't. Of course, it's called a cant dog.
A what?
Cant dog, C-A-N-T-D-O-G, with the little on the that makes it cant.
Dog.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, what did they use this tool for?
Oh, it's for leverage, twisting, turning dog into a log, to two of us, we could take a cant and pick up a log, you on that side and me on this side, drive our dog into the log and pick it up. This was invented, this particular one was invented in Stillwater, just above the present waterfall in Stillwater, which is between Old Town and Orono.
Yep.
And what he did, his name was Peavy. There were two of them that were blacksmiths in Stillwater. And what he did to get the cant dog is he put this ferrule on the tool and hitched it so this dog wouldn't dog being this tool, the first ones could dog, and it could catch in what you were working on and give you a hell of a good ride out into the river. And you don't, of course, you don't want it to catch. You'd like to have it do like it's supposed to do. And the other thing they did is they put this point, which is a drift pin, that's driven into the handle. The ferrule goes over the top of it, and it makes it very handy because one of the things about the woods, anytime that you can do a job and work about this high is good instead of having to scooch down on the ground. Okay, the point well, of course it won't do it there, but the point makes it possible to go off and leave your tool right there, and it shows you where it is with some paint on it.
So you'd put a red marker at the top, so...
Yeah, that's very crude. That's my mark, you see. That kind of, yeah, well...
I mean, it makes sense. It was visible if you moved away, and you wouldn't forget him behind.
And the other thing, of course, is nice is you come back and it's standing up, and you don't have to bend over
and
to pick it
down
up.
on it.
Yeah. This is another kind of a woodsy tool, Pickeroon.
A Pickeroon.
Yep.
Now this was used for what?
Oh, well, another one of those things so that you don't have to bend over.
Oh, so you don't have to bend over. So you could actually pull a log or pull something.
That's right. That's right.
A Pickeroon.
Pickeroon, yeah. I haven't got any more tools that... Yeah, well, here's another one that I only got the other day.
Okay, now this one...
is a wrench.
It's a wrench.
Yeah, and it was made by a blacksmith in the woods, and he forged a piece of, well, stock that was going to go into drift pins into a curve, and this is welded in the forge, and this is a wrench. Okay.
Now, what would you use that on?
I'll show you when we get there, okay? When I have young people, I like to hand them this tool so they feel how heavy it is and that kind of thing. And it's very interesting.
You know, everything was manual back in the woods.
Oh yeah.
And I can see how the tools were designed not only to make it easier, but also to make it easier physically. No bending over, no back pain.
Got visitors.
You know, to make it easier for the loggers themselves.
Try to, yeah. Okay, this wheel that I have aboard here came off of the first wagon here.
It's a wagon wheel.
Yes.
Wow. That's
I'll tell you about it. But anyway, this went to Ohio from an Amish guy over the other side of Easton. Went to Ohio, and one of the cattle trucks brought it back. And the bill was marked, of course it stood up, but it said freight, no charge. Did you ever get a bill that said no charge on it? I never did, but anyway.
no.
Tom Pinkham said about that snow sled, it goes like hell ahead, but it doesn't go back at all. In the back of my pickup is in time going to go on to the back of this machine.
Now this is it was a wagon.
Dump wagon. Okay, Ed LaCroix used it when he built the railroad from Eagle Lake to Umbazooksas for the Great Northern Paper Company.
Now he was working. King LaCroix, I think, was.
That's the guy, that King Edward.
King Edward LaCroix.
Edouard, I guess.
Edouard.
Yeah, we want to say it like, I guess, the way they
That's
say
right.
it. Yeah.
And he, you're right, he did build a railroad from Eagle Lake that dumped into
Umbazooksas Lake.
Umbazooksas Lake, right
Yeah.
around Chamberlain Lake.
Yeah, well, that's an arm of Chamberlain.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
around. And so this was a wagon that
He bought 3 of them. This came from the Watson Wagon Company in one of the Consogas in New York State, and its bottom dumps like this.
so it's a dump wagon.
That's correct. That's what
The
it's.
sides open up and
No, the bottom opens
the
up.
bottom opens up.
Yeah. We're in the process of restoring this.
So this is the wagon, the bottom would just open up.
Yes, like that. And he had 3 of them. And I think, well, I'm very sure they pulled them with tractor.
With a tractor.
Yeah, this stiff pole, you
It
see.
would take, I mean, I saw the poles, they're huge. So I'm assuming that a tractor,
Yeah.
animals wouldn't pull this.
Well, yes,
Some
they
strong
could.
team of horses.
Yeah, but the whole idea was to drive up along the right-of-way and build your road as you went.
Yeah, the current railroad does the same thing, you know, where they're,
Of course.
you know, where they're just, it's the bottom of the car that opens up.
Yes,
Lay
they
that
do.
Crushed rock. You know.
That's right.
Same concept.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Now, and how did you acquire this particular wagon?
Well, he, Ed LaCroix, bought those, and the Great Northern Paper Company bought him out on the railroad up there. Yeah. He had LaCroix, King Edward LaCroix, had a contract with the Great Northern for 650,000 cords delivered in that lake over a 5-year period. And unfortunately, the price of pulpwood went.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was in 28 to, well, I think 36, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had 3 of these.
3 of these.
And this one just happened to be stored at Churchill in one of the buildings that stayed standing at Churchill. And this was stored inside. But unfortunately, not all of its wheels were put on a piece of plank or something like that. Well, anyway.
It's been well preserved.
Yes, Tess, this is
This is very, very good condition.
Yeah, you know, and I'm probably going to be the one to paint it. And boy, I'm looking for suggestions. as to how the hell to do that.
Well, you're supposed to give me a call, Ed.
Now, Ed, tell me about this machine. This is there's a plaque on it that says steam logger,
Yep,
1927 to 1936.
yep. The name, these were built in Waterville, Maine.
They were built in Waterville, Maine.
Yep.
And they were called? What's that? Are they
Steamer. They were called steamer.
steamers?
Yeah. You see up on the front of the steam chamber,
Yes.
you see the plaque that says number 39?
Yep.
Well, he built 88 of these
88 of
in
these.
Waterville, Maine. And as I understand it, there's one of these that's still being used in Russia, and there's another one that's running at the Logging Museum in Bradley. Bradley being, well, you know where Bradley is, huh? Okay. That one, the number of which is number 32, I think. It came from Fish Lake.
This one came from Fish Lake.
No, this one came from somewhere in around Churchill. May have been used to pull the locomotive from the railroad into Eagle Lake, but I'm only just imagining that.
Well, you know, I always wondered how they got. I mean, the trains that are currently in Eagle were taken from Boston, brought up to the woods. There were no roads there. This
Well,
was right through the
they
woods.
came from Canada, unloaded at St. Palmfield, offloaded onto flat ice, built an ice road, and I don't know how they got them across 9 Mile Bridge. I really don't.
I know. But this was actually used. This machine was used to haul wood,
Yeah, on sleds.
so they'd have a string of sleds behind it.
As many-
Basically, it's a steam engine.
That's correct. And the unique thing about it, and this is where LaCroix, this is where Lombard invented the endless chain that this runs on. Case Tractor got it away from him. He didn't. The patent rights weren't very good, and they tried to get it. The family tried to get it back, but
So this is really like, I mean, it's got the same principle as the current bulldozers.
absolutely. But he invented that.
But he invented this.
Yeah.
And then the sled rails down here is how he steered it.
So it was really designed. This log hauler was really designed to run on snow.
Yeah, oh, of course, everything was snow.
Everything was snow.
Oh yes, everything was snow.
This is probably why all the at least the local men in the valley and in New Brunswick would go work in the woods in the wintertime.
Of course, that was
Because
it.
even the
Well,
equipment.
They had things to do at home too. They had hay to cut,
Sure, in
crop
the
to put.
summertime.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the summertime. But
Crop to put in the ground, and yep.
So all of the equipment was built for winter use, including this machine
Yep.
or this log hauler that would just steer on.
Well, the
Snow and ice.
ancestry of that is when they tried to haul the ship masts out during the summertime, it beat them up so bad that they
Yep.
were no longer eligible to be a mast. So they had to go to slippery time of the year. So they changed the entire operation at the urging of the King of England.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
He thinks that that's a hops, but he and I know better.
This next machine is a
I just love this building.
well. When this came to us from the Logging Museum, we went with the Great Northern low bed and picked it up. And when Joe Oakley brought this in here, he unloaded it on its own power. And we had to tear, the other building had blown down after that, but we had to take the back wall out because this, of course, doesn't have reverse in it. So it came in under its own power.
So you have, on one side, in the other bay, we have a steam log hauler,
Yeah.
but this one is a later model.
Yeah,
it's a
that's right.
gasoline type.
Yeah, it used, I think the last year was 1953. He was using his name even up to, I think, 1935.
Lombard.
Yep.
Lombard log haulers.
This one, and he made him this gasoline diesel job. He made them in, Lombard made them in Minnesota as well.
Really?
Yeah. But as you can see, everything was designed for winter, strictly winter. Yeah.
Now, there's another machine next to it here. Looks like a snowmobile.
It is.
And it is a snowmobile.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that was Tom Pinkham's snowmobile.
This was Tom Pinkham's
Yeah, snowmobile. Yeah, he gave it to us. He said, boy, Ed, it goes like hell ahead, but it doesn't go for beans in reverse.
I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine, even for myself and for all of us, to be next to a machine that was owned and operated by Tom Pinkham, the
That's
legend
it.
in northern
The
Maine.
legend of northern Maine, yeah. As much of a legend as Ed LaCroix was.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
That's correct. Tell me about this thing on the ground in front of you. This is
This is,
new to me, and I have no idea. It looks like a boat anchor to me.
it is. It's a
It's a
windlass.
boat anchor, really?
Well, no, but the anchor was involved. You hauled out a long, long piece of rope, anchored it, hitched the raft onto it, or it on a raft, and you pulled the boom with it. Round and step over okay, you pull the boom with it until you get out to your anchor. Then you lift up your anchor and take it and its rope out as long as the scope of the rope was, and then round and pull the boom up to where the anchor was, and up the anchor. Go ahead. Okay?
Now, explain the boom. You thought I'd never ask.
Yeah. Well, a boom is logs. Generally speaking, they were 32 feet long.
32-foot logs.
Yes, spruce.
Spruce.
And they had a whole board, and actually I can show you better over in the museum. They had a whole board in them, and a boom chain went in one hole into the next log, through the hole, back to it and hide it, so you hold the logs together. They, of course, float and contain the wood in the water.
So you could actually make a raft by putting a boom around a whole bunch of logs so they wouldn't float all over the place.
That's correct.
And then would you tow the boom, or was
Yes, you would.
You would?
Yes.
Tow down a lake or...
Yes. Had tugs. Which didn't go fast. The boat did not go fast. It had a big, I do not have, I wish I did, I don't have a propeller that came off of, and then they would tow them across the lake, hitch the booms on the shore, and then drive the wood through the dam or whatever there was.
Oh, so they...
Okay, this was
Sure.
a way to manhandle it.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was really, not only did they move the wood down the lake in this kind of big raft of,
Yeah.
of lumber, but they also put it kind of at the mouth of a river, then open the boom and let the logs go down the river.
Yeah, that's right. And then haul the boom one long piece to the upper end of the lake
Sure.
and let the wood float into it
Yep.
and contained it. And this, of course, is a much cheaper way. This was using man labor
Sure.
to do the same thing that a boat would do. This capstan, they called it a capstan in the woods, and it was on a boat. It would do the same thing. You'd pull an anchor up 2 or 3
Sure.
turns around that, and then with enough slaves on the big long poles, you'd yeah.
These are sleds.
Yes.
Now, were they drawn by maybe the log hauler?
Yes. This one was this set of sleds made a sled. This is another one of these woods terms that, yeah.
And again, they got, there are runners underneath it so they
Yep.
can go across ice or snow.
Yeah, that's right. Made the same width as those runners. They aren't, but it could be.
So would they put the logs on here?
Yep,
They pile it.
yep. Yep, and the logs made the body. So those turn. The back one does the same thing. And generally speaking, 16.5 feet would be the length of log on this particular sled, and it was pulled by a tractor, and I can tell you that by the stiff drawbar.
Wow. So really, you had 2 of these sleds, or two sets of runners.
Yes.
And then you just put the logs on top
Yes.
and you make the body.
Yes, and chain and
Just chain.
and,
Sure.
and you see these turn so they could follow the road, but the shed would keep uniform and not get all screwed up going around corners and so that kind of thing. Yeah.
So this hanging from the ceiling
Yeah,
is a bateau?
that's it.
It's a bateau.
Yes, it is.
And this was used for, I mean,
A
look,
river drive.
river drive.
Yes. Could 6 or 8 men could stand up in a bateau, and they didn't have to worry about going out into the water. They were very, very stable.
yeah, they look shallow. Looks very shallow,
Yeah.
but awful wide. So
Yeah.
yeah, they would show some,
Yeah.
they would be stable on the water.
Yeah.
So this was powered by oars,
Yes. Sweeps.
sweeps.
Technically, that's what they called them, was sweeps.
Do you know if these were built locally?
Sure, they were. Matter of fact, the building's gone now, but there was right next to the Congregational Church, up on top of the hill, there was a shop, and that's what he did.
That's what he built bateaus.
He built bateaus. Yeah, they brought them down, loaded them on the Bang & Olufsen, and 6 at a time. They hauled them out of here wherever he could sell them. Yeah, he didn't have to.
This looks like a saw blade.
Yes, it is. Came out of the Portage chip plant.
The port ship.
Yeah, where it burned. It was out on it was a deck saw. And
What would they use? I mean, this is huge. It looks like about 4 feet in diameter.
yeah, it is anyway.
And
I'm going to say 6 feet in
6 feet.
diameter.
And
Yeah.
it looks like about 3/8
Yeah,
inch.
heavy as hell too.
Heavy.
And that's what it did. It was not a saw, it was a drop saw. That the weight of it, and it was spinning in pretty good shape, and just barely make it through a log. Then they picked it up and they cut the logs up that way. Yeah.
Impressive.
You see, this is pretty heavy stock.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, this is
Almost half inch.
steel.
Yes. And those aren't really very sharp.
You know, it must have been sharpening these things. I'm assuming somebody had to sharpen them.
Yes.
Had to have been quite an art.
Yes, agreed. Yes, well, a sawyer in the logging camps, when they were using crosscut saws, one of the crew was a sawyer, and that's all he did.
That's all he did. He'd file the saws,
That's
kept
it,
them
filer.
good and sharp.
Filer, they called it now. And they brought the saws in and left him with him, took another one that had been sharpened, and daylight hours, that's what he did.
He did. He just sharpened saws all day long.
That's it.
Probably ended up being the most important man, short of the cook.
Don't forget the cook.
Don't forget the cook.
Absolutely. Don't forget the cook.
These are sled. Is it a complete? Oh, that's right. You can see the.
Yes, it is complete.
It's complete.
Yeah. That, I'll go put my hand on if I can get there.
This is a bandsaw.
Yes.
Mostly, I mean, now we assume bandsaws are made out of metal, but this looks, it was all made out of wood.
Well, unfortunately, when he brought that, he said, I'm going to bring in my bandsaw, Ed. Now, wonderful. We had this all cleaned out for him, and anyway, he arrived, and the band wasn't on it.
Okay, yes.
Oh, well, anyway.
Did the guy have one?
He was so determined he was going to have a complete bandsaw here. He went back and forth from here to Bridgewater to see if he could find that band where it blew off of it. He never did find it.
Okay. Now, what powered this?
Horsepower.
This was horsepower.
Yeah, this is a 1 horsepower. And I'll show you where it gets its name. You hitch to that table. It had a pulley on it, and the horse walking would turn that, which made the bandsaw run.
So there was really a kind of a table or a walking ramp of some kind
That's right.
right next to it. And
Yeah,
it took a horse on it.
actually, it was that way, but yes,
And it would just turn the bandsaw.
yes. Yeah,
Now, the bandsaw, what did they use it for? Was it to make planks?
no, he was making, he was using it to make sled runners.
To make sled runners?
Yeah. You see, he could get the curve and one way, and he could saw it both ways, and it was, there isn't one here. Well, yes, there is, 2 behind you. Go to here and...
So this is called a drag saw?
Yeah, that's the word.
And
Cutting off.
it sounds like there's no attachment for an animal, so I'm assuming this was a hand.
That's it. That gave you the pole on that end, gave you some mechanical advantage. Pulling the saw. That's
Now,
it.
what would you use this saw for?
Cutting.
Boards.
No, cutting off.
Cutting off the end.
Cutting off the end of the log.
Yeah, square them up.
Square off
Yeah.
the logs.
Yeah. That's just how it works. It's just like you're making it go there.
So this is the bandsaw. Now you can really see
Yes, you
the
can.
mechanics of it.
Yes, you can.
A strap would go on the bottom wheel,
Yep, around the top.
wheel,
Around the top, yep.
and it would power,
By a horse.
and it was powered by a horse.
Made it called easily a 1 horsepower.
One horse.
And there is a
yeah,
such a thing as a 2 horsepower as well, but we don't have any 2 horsepowers.
This is a world
Yeah,
champion.
came from Township 13, Range 8. It hasn't been dead too long before they found it.
This is what species?
Tamarack,
It's a Tamarack.
yeah.
I mean, you're standing and this looks like about 4 feet, 4.5 feet
Oh, yeah.
on the stump.
Yeah. I don't know what it says on this. I didn't have anything to do with
this
no, I
Very
didn't.
impressive.
Oh, that found it entered it in the national championship, and it was the world's champ.
World champion
Yeah.
Tamarack Tree.
Now I think that's worth preserving myself, but yeah.
You know, a tree like this is, I don't know if it can be found in the state of Maine.
No, nah,
All been cut.
yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what on the Tamarack, and I mean, you worked in the woods, what would be the life expectancy of a Tamarack tree?
Oh, this one's probably 400.
400 years
Yeah,
old.
probably.
Yeah.
So this is a logging camp cook stove?
It's a cook stove, yep.
It's huge.
Yes, it is.
It looks like solid cast iron.
You and I aren't going to, you take one in and I'll take the
Yeah,
other.
to move it around.
But the other thing is, you notice carefully, it's a double oven machine.
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah, well, this came
Get away without baking.
from Conliff's camp.
From Cunliffe's camp up on the
Allagash.
on the Allagash
about
River.
5 miles above the village on the Allagash River.
Now, in a typical camp, in a lumber camp, how many people were there?
Well, the era that we're trying to represent, generally speaking, 25 or 30 in a camp would be
25 or 30 men in a
Yeah,
camp would be an average camp.
and they'd have a hovel for probably their own horses. This, of course, had the advantage of they fed their horses someone else's hay, and the horse would get board and a little money for the winter. And they would be kept in a good tight hovel and be used daily. Usually the man drove his own horses too, so he didn't have to worry about something getting beat the hell out of him and that kind of thing.
So then you'd have somebody who was a farmer, perhaps,
Yeah,
who had a
generally,
horse, and he wanted to board the horse for the winter and also make some money. He
Yeah.
would go off to a logging camp
Yeah.
with his horse.
yeah,
And
sometimes a pair.
sometimes a pair, and they'd use the horse, and it was a way to maintain his horse all winter
Yeah,
long.
sure, and they'd use them when they were hauling to the river to create the river drive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm pleased we got this in.
Called a saw.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now what did they do with this?
Saw lumber.
Sawed lumber.
Yes.
Now,
A little more over here. This is This painted blue is the carriage.
So how did the log fit on here?
Right on like so.
Oh, it would go inside.
Yes,
All the way to the other end.
yeah, that's it. That's it.
And then
Saw, arbor. Well, tires are kind of in the way.
I mean, it's on some kind of a wheel, so obviously
Yes.
it was running on a track.
Yes, that's what that stuff is there. That flat piece is right there. And this carriage, of which 1, 2, 3, the log laid right in here. This is part of the hold down mechanism for the log.
Okay.
And this ran back and forth, this being the carriage,
Yep. Yeah, the base being the carriage.
and below it you'll see some wheels. Okay, those ran on a well, just like a railroad.
Right. Now, Ed, I look here,
I wish I could take you up into the tower, but
it's a tower.
yeah, it's came off Norway Bluff. Came in 2 pieces. The cab came. Now people say, "Oh, you brought it here with a helicopter." We didn't bring it here with a helicopter. The liability insurance would have been $175,000.
Just for the insurance.
Yeah, to carry that right down here. See.
So this was used. This was used to look for forest fires.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. On the high, well, Norway Bluff, well, we could see at the top of Young Hill, I could show you Norway Bluff, but they abandoned that, the Forest Service abandoned that, and they're doing it with airplanes now.
With airplanes now.
Or helicopters, as the case may be.
I mean, it looks like it's in very recent conditions.
Well, this was a Boy Scout Eagle project.
It was a Boy Scout Eagle project.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. I guess I could say I was almost the chief honcho because I said that won't go. Yeah, that's going to be painted. It's going to be painted well.
So this came from Chasebrook.
Yeah, north of Fish Lake.
North of Fish Lake.
Yeah.
It's a blacksmith shop.
That's correct. Yeah, those are the stalks right there that he's leaning against. They're buried now, but a horse came through the door, walked in there, and that's where they put shoes on him.
So they would bring
in here.
They'd bring the horse in.
Yeah, right to the door, right here.
And then at that point they do
Trim their hooves.
trim the hoofs,
Put
Yeah.
shoes on.
shoes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when he knew he was a big dog.
Yeah, that's right. Then I knew I was a super duper then.
Yes, sir.
You see over in the corner, you asked about flood runners. Over in the I call it the southwest corner, leaning up, nailed up in the corner. Well, those are patents for sled runners.
So those were the actual patent for the sled runners.
Yes, sir.
themselves.
Yeah, like we were looking at over there before. This even used to smell like horses, but it doesn't anymore.
Now these tools on the back wall,
Yeah, a lot of them, aren't there?
They look like giant pliers?
Well, blacksmith tools. Okay, this is a forge right here in front of you, right there in the middle of the floor. And that's what the blacksmith would use handling his hot iron to an anvil here. Only probably it would be right there, but that's only.
Wow. So they would take the hot metals, shape them into a horseshoe,
Yep,
and then pound them out on these anvils.
yep. He's got one in the vise over there. I think, is it a shoe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about this, Edward, is I don't see any ox shoes.
Well, there are a few. There are a few on that
Oxen
tip.
had cloven hooves,
Yeah.
so you had the shoes were two pieces. This is a toenail here, so they only had one-piece shoes for horses.
Now by two pieces, you mean, I'm not sure I follow
The
that.
cloven hooves, if they've got a toenail here and they've got a toenail here, so you have to put iron on both of them in two pieces.
Ah, okay.
Here.
Yes, that's it.
There they are.
Yes,
Well
they
done.
certainly are.
So you
Yeah.
got two pieces. So those are for oxen,
Yes,
one on each clove.
yes. Now,
Very nice.
that brings up the point. What is each point called
Oh,
on an ox foot, or a cow's foot for that matter?
I haven't got a clue. There's a whole bunch of stuff I've never seen before.
Well, yes, there is.
Here, Edward,
Yes.
what's each point called?
Yeah, on an ox's foot, it's got, of course, cloven like you were pointing out, but what's each point on that foot called? Yeah,
No.
cold weather, split feet,
For cold weather.
yeah,
On the ice, pulling on the river ice.
Oh, those are,
yeah, this would be for a foot, the horse perhaps had injured his foot, and rather than let it work and eventually fall off, he put this on, or one of these on that foot to support it.
sure,
Yeah,
on a wounded foot.
yeah,
Wow.
Interesting.
Here is the
This is the
bellows.
forge.
This doesn't have a bellows. There's a bellows over
Yeah,
here
I saw
that's
the
5
bellows.
feet tall.
that's what you've got right there, is the bellows.
So this makes the fire really, really
So
hot.
this blows air, creates
Blows air. Air pump.
an air pump, really, manual air pump.
Oh, this is awesome. That, you see the building construction, each one of these is a little, somebody different put these things
Yes.
together. So you see how the peak of the roof is held up by cross beams.
Yeah,
They hadn't invented trusses yet. These guys were good, I'll tell you.
yeah, they could do a lot with a spike and drift pins, there's no doubt about it, and an axe.
Yeah?
And this is the bellows that goes onto the forge.
Yep.
I'm sure this one has made lots of horseshoes.
Lots and lots and lots
Yeah.
of horses. And Oxford.
Yeah,
We,
out of the way, that's,
Sorts of horse equipment. Collars, bridles. Even horse blankets.
rolling them out, because everybody in the world wants to try this
Okay,
rolling
Yeah.
pin.
pretty neat, huh?
Yeah,
Now, this is inside a typical logging camp?
A kitchen.
A kitchen. This is a cook's kitchen.
Yeah, feeds, well, obviously in 2 shifts, feeds 25 men. A cook and maybe a cookie. Cookie being the one that hauls the wood, splits the wood, brings the water and whatever.
Now, did you acquired this, I'm assuming, from somebody?
Build it.
You built it yourself?
Yeah, yes.
So the camps would end up with 25 people, and this would be the cook room, so
Yes.
the sleeping quarters were separate.
Well, that'd be, the way this is set up, that'd be the boss's scaler and clerk in the other end.
In the other end.
And a men's camp for 25 to 30 men elsewhere.
Was it, was the camp a one-room type? Or did
The bedroom, yes, the bunkhouse.
the bunkhouse is just one big room?
Yeah, one big room, yeah. And usually a washroom somewhere between here and there. Well,
Oh, there's a washroom between the buildings.
yep. Yeah, they built that, right, they built that,
So the camps would have kerosene lamps?
yes.
So the kerosene itself then had to be hauled in the
Yes,
fall.
yes.
Were there supplies coming in from the outside during the winter?
Oh, yes, very definitely in the winter. Right, so the winter road, yes, really put that on the sled and going in, and sometimes a worker might even ride on the sled, but it was much warmer, of course, to walk than it was to ride.
Now you've got some cans up here of material. One, it's called produced in England. Some kind of, I've never seen those. I'm not sure what that is.
I haven't got any idea. They may have come out of a camp sometime or another, and somebody brought them along, and have no idea at all. Okay, that's new.
Now I see the pure lard can. I'm sure that was a very popular item in the
Oh,
camps.
of course it was. Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of grease, yeah.
I mean, it took a lot of energy for the men to be working out
Yes,
there all day
yes,
long.
and they could it would run right off of them just like nothing.
Lots of different frying pans.
Yeah.
Now, Ed, what was? I mean, you were at the camps. Spent a lot of time at the camps. What was a typical meal like?
Oh, well, not very good.
It wasn't good.
Myself, our last 4 camps that we had, boy, we had a corking good cooking staff in each one of them. And breakfast, dinner, and supper were first-class meals. And somehow we were able to hold on to the 60 cent a meal
60 cents a meal.
charge, yes, to the worker.
You were charging 60 cents to the worker.
Yeah, and our cookroom loss, well, I'm really not very proud of that, but of course we fed them very, very good.
Well, in a way, I'm assuming that having a good cook made it a lot easier to recruit men.
Oh, yes.
Because good men wanted, I'm sure they wanted to
Oh, yes.
enjoy a good meal, so
Yes.
they'd go for employers that had good meals and
Yes,
good accommodations.
Yeah, well, yes, the accommodations were okay, we ended up with, well, semi-private rooms. We got rid of the double bunk was used. The top bunk was, well, kind of a, storage place. It wasn't a sleeping place. It could be, but we just, we thought that two men usually two men the same crew, would be what they'd like to sleep.
Sure.
And they had the privacy of a shower, sometimes two, depending on how the plumbing worked out, and stalls for toilet facilities, and the bull cook went through once a day to kind of straighten things out and hang towels up so that they dry. And men aren't very clean in a situation.
Well, they've worked all day long.
Yeah, that's right.
And they didn't feel like tidying up the place. They just wanted a place to have a good meal and then lay down.
Yeah, they did, and boy, we fed them well.
And you fed them well.
Yeah, 60 cents a meal.
Wow.
And when they went to a 4-day week, there were, Romeo Socia, who was at Fox Brook, or
Is that Romeo Associate from Fort Kent?
Yes.
Actually,
God, he was a good cook.
Actually, he lived across the street from where my wife is, where from Maine is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
God, he was a good cook. Oh. And he took great pride in the fact that we called him a good cook, and we paid him as much as we could pay a cook. And Thursday afternoon, work was done. The fellows, they didn't just get into their cars and go home. They stayed for supper. Jeez, 60 cents for, and each 1 week, we catered to him. He'd like to have some fish, so we'd get some fish off the fish truck that came into town on Wednesday, and we'd put it in a cooler and take it into the camp so they could have fish. And the next week he might want, I'd like to have turkey this week. Well, okay. Yeah, somewhere around Wednesday somewhere, the turkeys would arrive. I don't know who did that, but it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure you needed a real good foreman in the camp.
Oh, yeah.
Just to make things work.
Oh, yeah. Well, Romeo was there because that particular foreman, who was Ken Bartlett in Portage, now deceased, he ate there too, and his idea was, geez, I like 3 good meals a day, and anyway, he got a, boy, he was a good cook, and a nice guy too. Yeah, I was Mr. Chase. Never could get him to call me Ed. It was
Ed.
Mr. Chase. Yes, sir, Romeo. And we had a fellow down to Pillsbury Pond whose name was L'Italian, and he came from Eagle Lake.
Eagle Lake.
Yeah.
Was it Norman?
Albert, I think.
Oh, Albert L'Italian.
Yeah. He was, God, he was a good storyteller.
Well, I'm sure that at night, because there was no electricity, that you had kerosene lamps, that at night either they went to bed or they'd hang around the table and shoot stories.
Yeah, but they didn't hang around the kitchen out. What I'm doing right now, I'd only be allowed to do it, even as boss, I'd only be able to, just after the meal, out.
Out the door.
Yeah.
The cook took over.
This was his domain right here. Yeah. Romeo and Albert. Latter years we had a fellow who lives over to Mapleton, who's the cook at Machias, Audrey Charlo. He was unbelievably good. Yeah, Friday, Thursday afternoon, they'd start coming in normal time, rain or shine, and usually a rainy Thursday, they flew away, they'd go, no. They couldn't get a meal anywhere in the world for 60 cents.
A day. A meal.
A meal.
That's
yeah,
a meal.
Yeah. How we can't justify that yet. Well, yes, we can. We have crew go around and we meet our quotas and we do it, and we don't have accidents, and well, a lot of other things that go into it too, you know. Gee.
Yeah, that was the one thing with talking to Franklin Terrio from Fort Kent.
Yeah.
There were two things. One was keeping his men happy,
Yeah.
but the other thing was also keeping his men safe.
Yeah, very definitely.
Safety, you know, now companies stress safety, but at the time, so did the foremans in the lumber camps.
Oh, sure they did. Sure they did. He was, well, once a year he had a review, and that was discussed. The safety record was
Yes.
discussed as
Yes.
part of his annual review.
Yeah.
And if it was not very good, the raise sometimes didn't take place. Yeah.
Now there's a second part to this building.
Yes, yeah. This box would be open.
So after supper, when they've left the cook room, where they were basically
Yeah.
thrown out of the cook room.
Well, yeah, they were
And
encouraged to leave. Yeah,
They came to the boss's
Yeah.
quarters.
yeah. And I'm sitting on the wagon box, and this had things like, well, underwear, long underwear, bandanas for handkerchiefs, socks, wool socks, mostly hand knit, gloves, maybe a new shirt.
Now, were all these clothing, or was all this clothing for the boss or the workers?
Workers. They came, stood in the door there and said what they wanted, and the commis took it out of the wagon box, and then they said what their number was, and probably might be the scaler would write down in the book what number 74 took for, and that was the record.
So they actually were buying socks, mittens, gloves,
Yep.
and they would just keep track of the numbers and the article, and then probably at the end of the season,
Yes.
they would just
Yeah.
deduct it off their.
See, there's a price list right there on the. It isn't very readable now, but that's what it was. Came out of a camp
So this was a price list.
of wagon.
Chainsaw out of Springfield, Oregon in 1971. And it ran a chainsaw in 1999.
Yeah.
So is this? I'm assuming that the chair was handmade for.
Yeah, well, maybe it came from town and then it began to start to go to pieces, and then it was repaired and repaired again and whatever. Actually, it's very comfortable.
So there'd be two men then in this, or was it just one?
Well, this would be
The foreman's.
two, perhaps foreman and walking boss on the bottom bunk.
Right.
Yeah, on fur spills, fur boughs. Did it every Sunday. They'd bring in a few more to put on top, and of course those beds smelled, oh God, did they smell good.
So they put on the wood, they put fir boughs. That was kind of the mattress.
Yeah, and of course, you didn't ever take any out. You left them right there and added new ones right on top. So pretty soon,
You had a whole build-up.
oh yes, yeah.
A whole build-up
Good
of
mattress. And probably the clerk and maybe the scaler slept on the upper bunk.
Now, people talk about the scaler, and I've heard that many times. What did the scaler actually do?
Well, he measured the product, whether it be logs or be pulpwood or whatever.
So he kept track of what was being
Yes.
cut out.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes. By crew. And,
By crew.
Yeah, yeah.
And then,
Wow.
because my dad gave
And I think you'll see that kerosene lantern there, that's on the floor, but it wouldn't have been. It would have been up high enough so two of them could have been using the top of this wagon box right there for a desk.
and then the pasture where my whole
And the boots that are here have these huge spikes.
Yeah, you can see the ones on the, I don't know whether higher boots, I don't know whether those are
The other ones
caulk boots.
have.
No, these aren't caulk boots, those are caulk boots.
Now, those were made, I'm assuming, to run over logs.
Yep,
Now, during the winter time, what would be the typical footwear?
rubbers,
They'd wear rubber boots
rubber.
in the winter time.
Yes, yes.
And then come springtime, when they were on the log drives, they go to the different
The
boots.
caulk boot, because the back is, anything that's been, any log that's been put in the water, it's ungodly slippery.
Yep.
Yeah. And the caulk boot was what they used, well, in the boats and on the booms and so forth, because they aren't slippery. There's a pair of boots hanging up on the ceiling there. You'll notice they don't have any soles on the bottom of them. Those are particularly good in snow.
So these shoes, they look like leather with no soles on
That's
them.
right,
But
that's right. That would be where the snow was dry and they are just as comfortable as they can be, but no sole on them at all.
So then at the camps, the men had different shoes for different occasions.
Yep.
Now, were the boots and the clothing, especially the boots, were they supplied by the camp itself?
No, those would be an individual.
Oh, so the men brought them.
Yeah, oh
they-
yes, that was it. That was theirs.
Now this looks like a pair of long
It
johns.
is.
And it is.
It is. Yep. I haven't got the foggiest idea whose those are, but
An awful tall man.
well, that's been hanging there quite a while, so yeah. And makes me want to itch. It does. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that the clothing they had to wear was all wool, and they must have itched and
Oh.
scratched.
Yeah. And of course, in the old days, the bathing facilities were, well, that's it right there. You
Yeah.
pail of water and sponge and.
Yeah, you're right. You did all you needed was a place to put the bucket.
Yeah,
And
really.
This was the
Yeah.
sink, the washroom. And
The other thing we did was we were very fussy about the kind of soap. They liked ivory soap.
Really?
Yes.
Ivory soap.
White ivory soap. That, well, there wasn't a lot of perfume in it, but it, well, bugs didn't like it particularly, and, well, white ivory soap. Either here or there. This, of course, is boom chain.
The boom chain.
This one obviously stayed in the water for quite a while.
Now there's a whole slew of saws here.
Yep.
Do they have a name? There's a whole bunch on the wall.
Yep. Well, I wish John Carney was still alive. John Carney would stand right here and he'd tell you, well, this about Civil War, right here, this Patten. This would be a little later than Civil War. This would be something before, probably the older saw pattern. This be a slightly newer pattern. And this is a different pattern. As you come over here, you'll see that
The teeth are differently. The teeth are different on the saw.
Yep.
Now, was there a saw for different species of trees?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Of course, at the time, you were, Great Northern was especially interested in the spruce and fir.
Yes. Yes.
And so,
Probably this pattern right here.
okay.
And I think I mentioned the fact that there was usually when we were using crosscut saws, there was a sawyer in the camp, and he had a bench on the sunny side of a camp, and a small heated shop, and this is where he filed the saws.
Wow, the saws.
Yep.
And these are drill bits?
Yes, they are. Most of the log are put together with drift pins. I don't see a drift pin right there. This would be an iron rod about this size, sharpened on one end and blunt on the other. I wish I had one right here. Yes, 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 yes. Drift pin. Drift pin. No. Drift pins right here. You see, that's like a nail, but that drives hard.
So you would actually pound that into a...
Drill.
Oh, you drill the hole first?
Yes. And
then
then it wouldn't split.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, because I mean,
Yes.
that's almost 3/4 of an inch in diameter.
Yes, it is. This one obviously doesn't go with these, but the size of the rod, well, I don't have a pin the right size. You should have to talk this, but anyway, pin about the size of that right here.
Yep.
And then it would go in well and go in and seat, and it wouldn't split the log as it went in.
And on this side, you've got a lot of, looks like
Well,
files. I wouldn't say files, I should say.
grindstones.
Some kind of sharpeners.
Yeah, this is for saws. This particular one, obviously, was made in the woods to turn this grindstone. This grindstone. Again, yes.
Yeah, it's got a pulley on the end,
Yes,
so
it
it had some kind of a mechanical.
Yes, it
Probably
did.
the horse again.
Yes, probably. Probably that, of course, the base is made good and rugged, so the horse would have something to pull against and turn the grindstone.
And this one down here, this is is this for an axe?
Probably this there, yes, probably.
Sure, axe
Yes,
sharpener.
yes. You see, this is
Yep.
made wood things, but it worked. That doesn't work very well, does it?
Well,
Well, whatever. The fact, this probably is a sounding axe for, I mentioned early on,
Right.
out on the pine out there, there's a
For the
blaze
pine.
up high. Well, that he would hit that spot, and by the reverberations, you could tell whether the pine was sound or not. Low B flat, I think, if I remember correctly.
Now, all of these axe heads, I mean, they're different ones.
Yes,
Were
yeah.
they used at different times? I mean, some of them are extremely wide, some of them are,
Take a real man to swing that one.
yes, it would. I mean, to swing that all day long.
Yeah, these two here are for, and that one as well, are for,
Shaving the side,
yes,
or
hewing. This is a hewing axe right here. This,
Yeah, you're right. It would take a good man to swing that all day
Yeah.
long. Now, you've got this, looks like a spinning wheel up here that's up on the wall. It looks like,
well, this is a, by that you mean this
Yeah.
device. Okay, this is a, you see the calipers, the sled's in the way. You see the calipers down here?
yep,
Okay. There's what they call a rule right here. This has got all numbers on it and that kind of thing.
yep.
Okay, this is the weighted end. You will go the length of the log with this turning, count the number of revolutions to get the number of feet between here and where you end. Come back halfway and put the calipers on the, and then read whatever the scale rule says. And you could use it upside down. They didn't go in water very well, but
So this is really this is a newer chainsaw.
yeah. But this does not have a chain brake on it.
Okay.
But that did weigh 12 pounds, full of gas, with a chain on it, compared to some of these 40, 50, 60 pounds, and they had to be used like this, whereas that one could be used to limb and do a whole lot of other things with. Yeah,
You get something like this. This is a huge chainsaw. It looks like about a
well,
4-foot bar. I don't know if somebody could even carry that. It looks like a two-person bar.
oh yes, yes,
Looks like
that's a,
there's a handle on the end.
yeah, two-person chain. There's no,
Two-person
yeah.
chainsaw.
Yep. You see, it's even got a handle down here on this end.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine moving that all day long.
I can't.
No, you can't. I can't either.
No, can't.
And I have to admit, what would be a logging camp without a cribbage board?
Of course. Of course.
And this
Yes.
looks like a real handmade one,
Oh,
too.
sure. Oh, sure. Probably these are made with a hot nail. Yeah. The hole's made with a hot nail. Yeah.
Yeah.
This down on the end, that looks like it might be used for weights. Those are cannonballs.
They're
Yeah.
cannonballs.
Yeah. Yeah, they came out of a building down to Massadas, which evidently was there when the soldiers were on their way to Fort Kent to fight the Aroostook War.
Oh, the Aroostook War.
Yeah.
Oh, here we have remnants too of, looks like those irons for oxen.
These are for, these right here are for clothing giving them a toenail cut.
Toenail cut.
Yes.
That's, yep. Were the tools mostly made in the area, or were they bought from the outside?
Yeah,
Yes, I saw those. Those are for your oxen.
Yes, they are. But you'd be surprised the number of people, what is that? Gee, they can read right on the tag what they are, you know. What are those? Yeah. They don't have feet like that. Well, okay, they do. And,
Yep.
see, that was when the log was, well, it hadn't been only cut just a little while, and that was at our second lumberjack roundup.
Well, now this is not the tree that's outside.
The pine,
The big
yes.
pine.
This is, yes, right here.
That is the pine that is outside.
Yes, it is.
Look at that.
And that was the crew that he had from town, that he had go with him to cut that. And you see, they'd pretty well covered the ground with, so that it wasn't going to break all to pieces when it
They
came
make a
down.
real bed out of
Yes,
boughs for the
yes,
tree when
yes.
it fell.
Yes. Yeah,
So this is the crew that actually cut
yes. And they came
that
back.
big tree down
Yeah.
that's outside
Yeah.
of the Ashland Lumberman's Museum.
Yes, it is.
Now, there's a load here of lumber that looks awful big for horses to me.
I think that is one of those retouched considerably.
Okay.
I have some better pictures
So these were
for sap.
for collecting maple sap
Yes,
in the spring. They're made
Yeah.
out of birch bark.
yes.
How did they seal? You know, you still
Well-
have some cracks. How did they seal the
They
hinge? Or
they folded them over. Of course, when these come off of the tree, here they break all to pieces. But that is quite flexible. For instance, you get pin. This one they did with wire. This one they did with wire, but that's quite flexible when it first comes off of the tree.
okay.
So they can make the container.
So you have to shape it right after it gets off the tree. Then when it dries, it's
Yes, yes. But it would take, put a spile in the tree and I think, no, those go in there to make molds for maple sugar.
maple sugar molds.
Yeah. Here's some hand carved spiles right here.
Oh, the spouts that are
Spile.
yeah,
See that?
wedged into the tree.
Yeah,
and then,
with a perhaps one of those bits over
Bits.
there might have been used
yeah,
for that, about that size.
yeah.
See, that has a hole drilled through it. That comes out right here.
Yep.
This one's even got a nail on it to hold
Protects
the wire.
the wire.
Yeah. Does it say where it came from?
It's a salmon spear.
Doesn't say where it came from. Does that one?
Rustic Falls, Machias.
Now the Aroostook River had salmon, Atlantic
Sure.
salmon at one time.
Sure it did. Sure it did.
Very interesting.
This is, somehow I think this is saltwater fish, but
Right.
Pollard Flat, don't it? Okay. Probably it is. Would have been used just like a wheelbarrow in a camp. Haul wood, water, anything that needed moving around. Very, very useful. How do they use them? Well, they use them just like a sled.
Sled.
Sure.
Sure.
Really neat stuff.
Well, Ed, we've certainly spent some good time here today. This
Good,
has been very interesting.
good.
It's nice to see such a collection of things of the past,
Yeah,
of the lumbering past.
yeah.
And you've been such a gracious host and taking you away from this nice sunny afternoon.
Well, I don't mind this. Geez, the wind went down just about the time you got here.
Yes, it did.
So I dared get out of my vehicle. Yeah,
So we appreciate it. Now,
Yeah.
now the museum itself, when does it open? Typically.
well, when somebody calls me and said we'd like to go in the museum.
So we feel honored to.
Yes, that's right. You're the first guest.
But now this, during the summer, do you leave it open or do they just call you?
Yeah, well, it can be a very, very long day. Nobody to come.
Right.
Yeah, it can be a very, very long day. Or someone comes and they go buy the donation dishes and they go buy the donation dishes, and when you spend 3 hours with them, and you know, seem to see the donation thing I do. I mean, that's what keeps us going.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does. So really we do. We thank you very much.
Well, you're
It's
very
been
welcome.
Interesting. It's a
Very
nice
welcome.
collection.
Isn't that a nice sled? And that's in good shape too.
Yeah, I'm sure it was very handy around
The
the lumber
fellow across the road had it standing up in the back of his garage, and someday I'm going to bring it to the logging museum. And I said, look, Milford, that door is open and I'll stay right here until you get it here. Yeah,
And he did.
yeah, and he did. Yeah. Yeah. But wood, water, of course the camp yard would get all stamped down. It would be just as smooth and hard as this floor is. Yeah, a good sled.
Well, again, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Very
You're very
much.
welcome.
It's a stove.
Yes, it is. But what kind of stove?
Have no idea.
How about ram down? Top comes up and you ram the wood into it. Just,
So you feed the stove from the top.
yeah, you can, or through the front
through the
door.
front.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Someday I got to bet that its legs are in there, but someday I've got to.
Ram down stove.
Yes, and this is a hell of a good reflector oven.
Now this is. Were ovens used in the camps? Or
Yes,
They were
yes,
quite big.
just like this.
And it was a reflector oven.
Out on the trail, yeah. Maybe on the drive particularly. And you can make biscuits and more particularly molasses cookies.
Molasses.
You know, about like that and about that thick, yeah, yeah.
We'll have to make some
Yeah.
next time about that.
So you build a fire in front of it,
Yes,
and then the heat. I can
Yes.
see the rack on the inside. You put
Yes.
the cookies on them, or the
yes.
biscuit, and
Well, in the pans, I don't know if the pans are there. No, the pans
no,
aren't
they're
there.
not in there. But
And then you move the fire, then you move this closer or away from the fire to control the heat. And, oh, delicious. Oh, molasses cookies. Well, cut with a 1 pound coffee can. Like so,
okay.
maybe, yeah. Pretty good. Oh, yeah.
that is good.
I was a scoutmaster many years ago, and my assistant was. I think his wife made the dough. Is that what would you call it? Dough?
Cookie dough?
Yeah,
Cookie dough.
cookie dough, yeah. Now, I really think that she made it, but about 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd appear, and he'd have dry wood, and he'd start making the fire, and he'd always have the reflector oven, and he'd start well, the cookies would just, And the first time the younger scouts was like, we don't eat cookies in our house for breakfast. But after that, they never heard that again. Once they yeah. And I never did have the courage to say, Willard, where did you get the stainless steel from?
Yes, I know.
I never had the courage. I never really wanted to know. Yeah. Heavy as hell, but to go in the back of a pickup just beautifully. Yeah, well done. And we, at my house where I have ski trails, in the wintertime, at the end of the skiing season, my handsome ladies that do all the work on the trails in the wintertime, they have a, well, picnic kind of a fire, hot dogs, and molasses cookies, and this goes out back out there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the number of people that stand here just like this and say those things are cooking just like they were in an oven. Well, that's what it is.
That's what it is. It's a reflector oven.
Yeah.
Steel, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Patten Logging Museum for showing us their priceless collection of lumbering artifacts. You can get more information on the Patten Lumbering Museum on Facebook. And a very special thank you to our knowledgeable and pleasant tour guide, Edward Chase. Thank you.